you just stop being lazy and go and get a full-time job? It's something that is quite commonly heard in our society, and it's something that I've also heard throughout my entire life being a self-employed business owner, freelancer person. So today I want to talk about the differences between having a full-time job and being a freelancer or being a self-employed person. I personally have always believed that full-time and part-time or freelance are merely concepts that don't really mean much, especially in the day and age we live in. The most common thing that people always say when they refer to having a full-time job is this thing called stability. In a full-time job, the stability largely depends on the industry and also the company. In the past couple of years alone, look at how many people who are holding the most stable and high paying of jobs got retrenched. Whether they are in marketing or they are in tech, a lot of the jobs have actually been affected by the economy, and even the people who are working for the big names were not spared. So is a full-time job really stable when you could potentially lose it anytime? There are certain jobs that are extremely stable, like for example, if you work for the Singapore government or you work for a government-related organization, chances are, unless you screwed up real bad, you will unlikely lose your job. So that's pretty stable. But the bottom line here is that a full-time job might not be more stable than being a freelancer or a self-employed person. In the past 3 or 4 years alone, especially during the height of COVID, I have seen so many people lose their jobs. But thankfully for me, having built multiple income sources as a freelancer and self-employed person, some of my income streams did take a hit, but I was still generating income, which was pretty important because cash flow is extremely important in all of our lives and our journey. But whether you are a full-time job holder or a freelancer, the focus here should really be to add value. As long as you are adding value, clients will always want to hire you back, people will always want to work with you, and if you're adding immense value to the company that you're working full-time for, the chances of you getting retrenched during a recession is also slightly lower because the lower performing members will usually get retrenched or let go first. It's less about whether a job is stable or not, but the concept really lies in whether you are able to add value to the client or the company. Another key difference that people always talk about in a full-time job versus being a freelancer is the benefits. It is true, as a full-timer, as a full-time staff, you do enjoy certain leave benefits and healthcare benefits, as well as certain CPF benefits like the employer contribution that a freelancer and self-employed person like me does not get. Another thing to take note is that as a full-timer, usually you do not count your salary by month, you count them by year, because you usually get this thing called AWS or bonuses, performance bonuses and vice versa, which adds up to your annual income. But as a freelancer or business owner, that can look quite different. As a business owner, you could potentially give yourself a bonus at the end of the year if your business does well, but most of the time, what you earn is what you get. You will not suddenly receive a performance bonus. Like, not too long ago, Singapore Airlines announced the 8 months bonus for their staff, which is absolutely insane. And this is the kind of bonus, this is the kind of unexpected surprise that you will never get as a freelancer or self-employed person. This means that as a freelancer, self-employed person or business owner, I need to plan my finances extra carefully to ensure that I have my emergency funds set aside, I have my own insurance covered, and I have all the things that I need to look out for, such as filing my own taxes and vice versa, all sorted out. Because as a full-time worker, the company usually sorts all these things out for you. So as a freelancer, we need to have all these covered and understand all of the different things that make up our income, our cash flow, our insurance. The next thing that people always talk about when it comes to full-time job versus being a freelancer is freedom of time. In a full-time job, most of the time you work fixed hours, usually 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, especially in Singapore. So having fixed working hours usually means, apart from the occasional overtime, you usually get to knock off at about 6 or 7 p.m. and you have your nights and your weekends to yourself, depending on what job you're doing. Because of that, you are unable to plan certain activities during the weekdays when it is less crowded because you have to work. But for a freelancer like me, my time is essentially my own. I can do whatever I need to do, whatever I I want to do whenever I want to do, depending on the appointments I have. But on the flip side, this is also a disadvantage because being a freelancer, being able to work at any time, anywhere, any day, usually clients will also contact you anytime, any day, and whenever you are, even if you're on holiday. So not having fixed hours means that as a freelancer and business owner, you could potentially be working up to 15, 18, 20 hours a day because there are no fixed hours. Whereas for many full-time jobs, if the company respects the boundaries of your time, usually after 6 p.m, you're free to do whatever you want. So freedom of time really is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it means that you don't have to work after working hours. On the other hand, being a freelancer, even though you have full control of your time, you might be required to work anytime, anywhere, and anyhow. And of course, let's talk about potential. With a full-time job, your progression and potential is pretty much relatively predictable. You can roughly guess how much you're going to get paid in the next 2 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. Your income is relatively predictable because it is relatively fixed, and you can take reference from people working in the same company or industry. As a freelancer or business owner, your income has unlimited potential, which means that instead of making 5,000, 6,000, 4,000, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000 a month, you could potentially make 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, even $100,000 a month as a freelancer, depending on what you do and how scalable your business is. However, you also have to remember that it can go the opposite direction. Because you're a freelancer, you're a business owner, you're running your own setup, the amount of money you make can be negative. It can be negative 2,000, negative 5,000, negative 10,000, negative 100,000, or even negative 1 million, depending on your business model and whether you are leveraging with a business loan or vice versa. So having unlimited potential on the upside also means having a relatively unlimited downside. So as a freelancer, it is actually very important to have safety nets after safety nets to cover your downside so that you can capitalize on the potential upside, but at the same time ensuring that your downside is protected so you don't fall into debt or don't fall many steps behind when you have already trudged so far ahead. And of course, most importantly, I think the point that I really want to drive across is that no matter whether you are doing a full-time job or whether you are a freelancer or a self-employed person, doing something that you are good at or something that you love is extremely important. If it's something that you're good at, usually you can get it done very fast, very well, so you can spend the rest of your time doing what you love. And if it's something that you love, work rarely feels like work, whether you are a full-timer or a freelancer or a self-employed individual. Of course, there will always be things that we don't like in every job that we do, whether you're a full-timer or a freelancer, but most importantly, we need to pick the things that either we are very good at doing or we enjoy. If not every single day, whether you're a full-time worker or a part-time worker or freelancer, every single day will be agonizing because you're going into a job or doing work that you absolutely hate. At the end of the day, it's really about personal preference, what you prefer doing and what you're comfortable doing. Of course, not all of us has the privilege to do what we love, but all of us has the option to potentially do what we are good at and find out what we're good at, find the technical skills or soft skills that we are good at, capitalize on that, hone them and ensure that we are better every single day, and do something that allows us to maximize our potential, that will allow us to increase our earning potential and more importantly, to increase our productivity and how much we enjoy a certain job. Also, whether you are a full-time corporate worker or you are a freelancer, here are some of the key differences that I noticed. If you notice any other differences between a full-time job as well as being a freelancer, let me know in the comments, and I hope this video helps you whether you are looking to move on from a full-time job to become a freelancer or moving on from being a freelancer to being a full-time worker for the stability. Let me know what you think. See you in the next video. Peace!